Est-ce que vos films sont bien compris en Europe?
Non mais mettons-nous bien ça dans la tête. Moi, l'Europe n'est pas mon centre. L'Europe est une périphérie de l'Afrique. Vous voyez, ils sont restés plus de 100 ans chez moi, ils n'ont pas parlé ma langue, je parle leur langue. L'avenir, pour moi, l'avenir ne dépend pas d'être compris par l'Europe. Je souhaiterais qu'ils me comprennent, mais ça ne me fait absolument rien. Si vous prenez la carte de l'Afrique, géographiquement, vous pouvez mettre l'Europe et l'Amérique, il nous restera encore de la place. Pourquoi voulez-vous que ce tropisme, vous savez, le tropisme, pourquoi voulez-vous que je sois comme le tournesol qui tourne autour du soleil? Je suis moi-même le soleil.
Sometimes, to understand this world, one must turn away from it. That is how the first poem of The New Carthaginians by Nick Makoa, Prologue, opens, and it acts as a thesis for the rest of the collection. Makoa turns away from the known world, from the expected workings of temporality, from recorded, often biased, history, from Eurocentric mythology, to a world of his own making. The positioning of Prologue in the work, coming before the title, copyright, or contents pages, positions these typically paratextual features as part of the work, harking immediately to the source of inspiration for this book, the art of Jean-Michel Basquiat. The New Carthaginians, shortlisted for the T.S. Eliot Prize, and one of its poems, Codex, was also shortlisted for the Forward Prize for Best Single Written Poem, has three central protagonists: the poet, Nick Makoa, a black Icarus, and the resurrected Jean-Michel Basquiat. It is split into 6 parts: the Deep Space Quartet, 4 individual sections, and Codex and Eroica. We know immediately from this and from the references to Basquiat that we are couched in ekphrasis and in Basquiat's technique of the exploded collage, a term coined by the critic Diego Cortez. As Makoa writes in a note at the end of the collection, the exploded collage allows for multiple codices of information and insight to be displayed all at once, free of social hierarchies. You can see this method at work in paintings like Pegasus, Eroica 1 and Eroica 2, and equals pi, all of which become part of the codex that Makoa is constructing. At the heart of this collection, or perhaps rather its blood, the O negative pumping through every page, giving it life, is the Entebbe hijacking of June 1976, during the dictatorship of Idi Amin, the event which forced Makoa to leave Uganda as a young child. Makoa arrived in England with 4 languages, all of which, bar English, were made redundant by the move. But he found a new language in poetry, and in many ways this collection feels like its dictionary. Moment is a word which crops up repeatedly in these poems. The air becomes something else the moment we lean into it. At that moment of release, his back wishes he was a feathered thing. In Prologue, Makoa tells us directly, the truth amidst the unattended moment. I am here to look at the unattended moment. This way, even as we are cast back into 1976, into liminal temporal moments, shown potential visions of the future, everything remains in the moment, time turned into a palimpsest. At the same time as centering blackness, Makoa reclaims. He reclaims the black body from death, reclaims the black artist from a simplified legacy. He reclaims Entebbe, reclaims Uganda, he reclaims Carthage, which was taken by Rome. One of my favourite moments where many of the features and symbols of Makoa's codex are cast together less like an exploded collage and more like a multi-temporal landscape painting is in the poem Icarus Talks to the Poet on Rodeo Drive about leaving. In just 12 lines we have Basquiat, Icarus, Da Vinci, by whose notebooks and codexes Makoa was heavily inspired. We have Milton, Ovid, references I think even to Plato, to Makoa's own exile, a feature of what he terms the metic experience. A metic must negotiate the nuances of their story that consist of points of departure, return, and initiation. Being a metic means being a plural being rather than a singular one, just as this collection has more than one protagonist, more than one point of view, more than one story to tell. Yet it ends with a note of endurance. Only Basquiat saw me at the edge of the world, and did not turn away when the sky was a window as it has always been, a reference to the painting Icarus Esso, where his lithographed name has been immortalized. I do wonder whether the emotional impact of reading The New Carthaginians would have been even greater had the organization of the collection been slightly different. The Codex and Eroica sequences, or parts, are really the key to parsing the images, experiences, and language of this collection, in the same way that holding up a mirror is the key to Da Vinci's handwriting in his notebooks, but they come at the end rather than at the beginning. In a sense, this feels earned. There is often a troubling expectation for writers of colour to make their lives legible or visible to the white gaze. But I think that the reading experience is also richer and more personal, bringing the poet closer for having read these sections. Perhaps that is the point, to finish with a sense of intimacy, a sense of knowing. And what really can we say about Order when this collection is such a clever pastiche of an homage to Basquiat's exploded collages, where the outward appearance of a lack of rhyme or reason is part illusion and part secret that maybe only those of metic experience will ever truly understand. The final lines of the concluding poem, artfully titled "Samo, another day, another dime, hypercool, another way to kill some time," are some of the most affecting in the whole collection. Picture this. One thing will become two for anything called the way. In the moon's absence, these equations of inverse proportion are matters taped to the wall of my mind, the most precious things I own. The night grips tight to the evening. How will I let it go? I am of the belief that letting go is something of a Western obsession. Passing through grief, letting go of loss, getting over adversity. Instead, I think what we need is to remember. In his essay, The Codex of Basquiat equals Pi, Makoa rightly notes that despite Basquiat's acclaim, America still has no public monument to him or institution in his name. None of his Samo graffiti has been preserved. Black cultures suffer from what Orlando Patterson called an absence of ruins. This book feels like a monument to Basquiat, to blackness, to liminality. Why be a sunflower and turn toward the sun? I myself am the sun.